Can I press the button?
Okay, you can press the button.
Oh, yes. Good day to you. Good day. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I did a full-on Robin Williams then, didn't I? I was straight into Vietnam. Sorry about that. Hope you're all well. Welcome back to episode 2. That's 2 in French. Or Canadian, depends where you live in the world, of course. And some parts of Africa, in truth. Belgium as well, when I think about it. A lot of the world would know what "de" means. Anyway, it's episode 2 of the Lunar Cast. So pleased to be back. It's right now, it's the most exciting thing, I think, that alongside my cough that we do. And it's also fantastic to see you, my friend. How are you?
I am brilliant as always. We are looking forward to going through this week. We've actually got a big news topic, which sort of gives it away in our show title, "Running from the Crucible." So what I will say is we will not duck away from the difficult sort of maybe topics. We are going to talk about them all here, good, bad, and indifferent. So just keep us. We try and do things down the line. So we will say good things about Luna. We will say maybe some not so good things about Luna, but we try and give her honest
you know
thoughts.
My motto, Duncan, because I carry this across all my shows, and that is that we deliver the facts, and sometimes those facts are a little uncomfortable and they need to be discussed, and sometimes they're great. What we don't do, though, is we don't just speculate negatively, and we don't kind of get in there and troll and, say stuff that's just evocative. Evocative? That's not the word I meant. Blame it on the cough syrup, folks.
Yeah, Rock hasn't been too well over the last couple of days, so you may hear him muting himself every so often. He's got a bit of a bad cold going on.
I'm doing my best, folks. But it is okay. It's not the really nasty one that nobody wants. I've still got full-on sense of taste. I'm not running a temperature. Just want to get that out there. I don't want you to all keep social distance away from your screen. You'll be all absolutely fine. So
Rock,
it's
I would have to disagree with that. Look at the jumper thing look at the hoodie you're wearing. That's no taste. And that t-shirt
merch going on here, mate. Proper merch. And I wear this hoodie on purpose. This is my Lunacast hoodie because if you look, it matches what's on that screen behind me. You see, color coordinated, mate. I think these things through. Unlike you with your Mickey Mouse top on, in a literal sense. What's that all about? What's Mickey got to do with cloud gaming yet?
I think the yet will be in there. They're trying to take over. They're trying to take over absolutely everything.
For the company that has more franchises and IP than any other on the planet, you kind of got to see something coming soon, haven't you? And don't forget, there's a little bit of a rat hole here. You know who the biggest who has the biggest single investment in Disney?
Who has the biggest single investment in Disney?
Steve Jobs, the family, the estate, and therefore Apple as well, because Apple as well, I think they've got an interest. So, we know what's going on. I mean, we've never mentioned this before on this show, but you uncovered a couple of months ago or a few weeks ago, you uncovered a patent that had been lodged in Europe for running cloud gaming over a 5G network by Apple.
Yep, and it's very, very interesting. And Apple definitely do have aspirations towards gaming, because we've seen that with their ramp up of Apple Arcade, which we're probably going to hear more about this week with the Apple event, which we could actually maybe discuss later on. Do we think any cloud services are going to turn up there? Who knows?
Oh, yeah, I think the race has only just begun, my friend. It has only just begun. They're using that in an advert at the moment, just to go down another complete rat hole, which has got nothing to do with weddings and marriage, which is what the song's all about. Anyway, should we get on with the show?
I suppose so.
By saying, as we always say, we are not in any way whatsoever affiliated to Amazon or to Amazon Luna. We are just huge fans of cloud gaming and hugely excited about another incumbent with the Luna, with obviously Amazon Luna. That's out the way. But we have as yet not seen it in the wild, have we, Duncan? We were hoping after last week's show that this week may have started to see some of those early access accounts.
Yeah, we were thinking that, but I think the news which dropped on Friday, I think there's a reason why we haven't seen anything. Which brings us a nice wee segue
I look forward to your thoughts on that, because I don't know, something we haven't discussed. Yeah. But shall we start with this thing that you, I mean, you kind of feel, let's get it up on the screen, Crucible gets cancelled, and you kind of feel it's a kind of middle of the road issue in a sense. I tell you my views on this in a second, but why don't you read the facts? Give us the facts, man. Just the facts.
Just the facts. Just the facts. Okay. Basically, Amazon have been trying to build a number of games up over the last number of years, and this was the first major big one that went for, which actually got out into the wild for people to actually play. Yeah. And it's called Crucible. It was going after it was a hodgepodge of a couple of different genres moved into one. Basically, what happened after a couple of months after being out in the wild, they actually done something really strange and really unprecedented in gaming, that they unreleased the game and brought it back into beta to try and fix the game up and make it better. This week, we discovered late on Friday that they are now cancelling the project, and in a couple of weeks' time, until the 9th of November, you can play it up and there will be a big send-off for it. And after that, it is getting, unfortunately, cancelled. So that is basically where we are with it. We both have a lot of thoughts on this. Rock, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so, I mean, for me, you kind of have to boil it back to how important was this as a game anyway to Luna. And I think more importantly, was this game developed alongside Luna? Was Luna even a thing when this game was first developed? Now, I played this when it first came out, which is a few months ago now. I thought it was okay. I mean, I was trying to run it, in fairness to the game, on a Windows boot camp on my MacBook, so it wasn't the ideal environment, and certainly you did need to run it on a half decent PC if you were going to bump up the graphics. But I think overall it was a reasonable game. It was a kind of PvP control type scenario. The thing is, I think is that I don't see this and Luna in the same box. They have a separate games development company called Amazon Games, of which, of course, they're developing now titles to run on Luna, and it may well have been that certainly this and the other big one that they've been pushing hard on, New World, were it kind of Luna was in the background somewhere when they were planning these games, but these will have been in development for years. We know how long it takes to develop a game. Neither of them, I would say, are obvious cloud gaming fodder. I mean, maybe New World is to a degree. It's an RPG, so I kind of see that working as a large-scale open world game, which, by the way, I've played twice now and I love it to pieces. I cannot wait for that game to come out. We'll touch on that in a second, because I know there's been some negativity in the circles that we inhabit, that this isn't a good look for Luna. Oh my god, look at this, they've not even properly launched yet and they're already killing off titles. Well, I don't think you can put the two in the same box, is essentially where I'm coming from. Like all studios, they have to road test the game, they put it out there. What kind of feedback do they get? For this, it wasn't brilliant. I mean, they had some issues initially. They brought it back in-house, they played with it a bit more, they made loads of tweaks, they popped it back out, the feedback wasn't amazing. Well, I think they did the right thing. They said, why are we wasting time on a title which, to be fair, we've already moved on from? We've already got games in the work like Lord of the Rings, which we think are going to be absolutely stunning. Let's not waste time on this anymore. Let's pop it over there, as we'll mark it as a learning curve. We'll take the team that were working on it and we'll apply them to these games over here, which we're fully invested in and we think are going to be amazing. And of course, they're going to appear on Luna. We think, speculation. We have no clue. For all we know, there may never be a game developed by Amazon Games that appears on Luna, but that would be lunacy. Let's be completely honest and pun-like here. So that's my view. I think it's silly to put the two in the same box. They have learned lessons. And, there's some key things here that I think I'd like to put out there. One is I have games that I've paid £60 for, $80, whatever, which were never fit for release the day they were put out into the marketplace. The development, the studios took months to acknowledge there were any issues. When everybody in that particular games community were deeply unhappy, I can think of one or two straight in my head. And then ultimately they admit, yeah, you know what, we had problems with the engine we were forced to use. There were issues here, there were issues there, but nobody was ever offered them money back, and there were only tiny little patches. And in some cases, the studios that were part of the large publishers in particular games that didn't do well were completely disbanded, broken up, sold off. Now, in this case, they've taken the game, they've said, yeah, okay, we take it all, we take it on the chin. They've offered refunds to anybody that spent money on the game, and they've said they're taking the entire team and applying them to other projects. I think that's an honorable thing. And for me, as a gamer, I think, you know what, I've got confidence in a company that tells us what it is, gives us complete openness and transparency, isn't wasting our time, taking a load of money and not giving it back. They're moving on. So yeah, Crucible being folded at this point, I just see this as a sign of a good sign that Amazon Games care about the games they're producing, they care about their customer base, and they care about their team.
Yeah, Rock, the easy thing they could have done was just keep this going. And I think we both said last week on here that we expect the Crucible to probably end up on Luna at some stage. But obviously that's not going to happen now. Yeah, making games is not easy. You could have all the big names under the sun working on the game and chuck an unlimited budget at it, and it still doesn't mean it's going to be an absolute runaway hit. It will take, I'm hoping it doesn't, but it may take a number of years until Amazon get it right, but they seem to be on the right path with New World. It's just... going back to our first point there, why we thought we might have got some news this week. This is the reason why I don't think we got any news, because they're playing the PR game here. They wouldn't want to put out a load of Luna stuff when they'll be cancelling Crucible on the Friday, because this must have been on the cards for a wee while, because then the correlation would come in a lot more, and people would make the two and two together. Also, in the circles we seem to be running in at the moment, there's been a lot of talk about how Amazon are not getting a lot of flack for this, and if this was a different platform, they would be getting hammered under the sun. A couple of reasons. The news story about Crucible wasn't on Friday. The news story about Crucible was a couple of months ago when they put it back into beta. Since they did that, I'm not saying that the writing was on the wall, but you would not be surprised of what has just happened here. So again, I think it's just unfortunately it looks like the game couldn't really be saved, and they're just cutting their losses now, and they're putting their resources into other places. So yeah, again, it's just optics, and I think that's the reason why we haven't got a lot of things this week. And again, Amazon have done the PR thing. You may agree with it or not agree with it. If you want to get rid of bad news, what day do you do it on? You do it on the Friday. Last thing. And what happened last thing on the Friday? Bang, we've got this. So this is why it's not blown up as well, because they've done it in the normal sort of circles. And come Monday, when everybody's back at their work, it'll be another news story of the week, which is going to run and run.
Absolutely. I totally get it. I can understand right now, there's a new guy in town, and this is a fledgling industry. Let's call it an industry. It's a sector. Let's call it a sector. It's a fledgling sector, gaming sector, and anybody that's in this sector is, really taking arrows in their back. It doesn't matter who it is. They're getting flack from somebody, whether it's the traditional consoles, whether it's PCs. So you can fully understand how someone else has come along. Oh, let's redirect some of the ire in their direction. I get that. I totally understand it. From my perspective, I think this isn't about A versus B. It's about where, as a gamer in this entire cloud gaming universe, we can get the best value as a whole. It doesn't have to be individually. It doesn't have to be, I've got one account and that's it, and I'm sticking with it. Because, we've said this before, you're not investing a lot of money. You're investing small amounts per month, relatively small amounts compared to even buying a single game. So as a consumer, you can own 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different cloud gaming platforms, and it still won't cost you the price of a full game every month, which is what some people, console and PC, pay every single month. They pay for a full price game or more. So it shouldn't be about, well, I'm going to have a crack at them because we've had it in our backs for the last year. It shouldn't be that at all. It should be welcome to cloud gaming, because a rising tide serves all ships. And I think that the benefits across the board for gamers, irrespective of which is your particular favorite, and it may not be Luna, it may be something else. You may decide Microsoft xCloud, as it was called, isn't anymore. It really has the cloud gaming service without a name may be your thing, or it may be that it's PlayStation Now, or it may be that it's Google Stadia, or it may be GeForce Now, or it may be any combination of those, or a million other incumbents. But the point is, it's your choice now. You're not limited anymore by having to invest in hardware and be stuck with it. So rejoice. I say, rejoice. And it is a shame. I didn't think it was that bad a game at all. I've seen a heck of a lot worse out there. They could, to be fair, it may resurface in the future, particularly under the Luna Plus monthly subscription. Who knows? But for now, it's been taken off the development cycle, put in its little own box, and those of you that paid for it, you can get a full refund. So I don't think there's anything to be too upset about. So that's all I have to say on that topic. Duncan, do you have anything you wish to add?
Yeah, like I said at the top of the show, we are not scared to put out our thoughts there, even if it's a difficult subject regarding Luna or anything at all. We will sit there and we will tackle it, and we will, warts and all, we will just say it out there.
I'm looking forward. We'll maybe next episode. We don't really have a roadmap for stuff we're going to cover, because I think, with something as fast moving as this, we can have a news item drop on a Friday and it takes up 50% of the show. But it would be good to cover Amazon games in a bit more detail. I put out a video this morning, actually, with a piece I did on Amazon games back in March, just to show how it compares to where we are today. It wasn't a million miles away. So it'd be quite good, I think, to cover. They actually are working on quite a few games, and some of them are very obviously Luna-centric, or certainly Twitch-centric. And I think those two almost synonymous now. I think we can guarantee that. So maybe that's something we'll look at next week, because I think it's fascinating to see what those guys are up to anyway. Right. Okay. So the next item is, you were doing a bit of sleuthing, weren't you? I'll hide that a second. You were doing a little bit of sleuthing in the week, and you went looking at job vacancies for that were, largely around Amazon Luna. And what did you find?
The one I have found, which is most intriguing to me, is they're looking for a senior business development manager. I don't know if I could speak, and for the streaming gaming industry. I wonder what that could mean. And this is from Amazon themselves. And the key portion of this would be you will enable the AWS, that's Amazon Web Services, isn't that?
It is indeed Amazon Web Services.
Yes. I got
Well
that
done.
right. I'm awful with acronyms, so I am. Sales team to drive their day-to-day interactions with key game prospects. You will work closely with AWS solutions executives to develop and promote cloud gaming streaming platform to distribute customers' own games by themselves. So that sounds to me like that's about channels, and what's more intriguing is the location, which is Japan. So they look like they are going to be doing a big push into Japan at this moment in time. So it's interesting.
Yeah, that absolutely is, and I think it's fairly safe to say all the cloud gaming platforms are forging links with Japan. I know that the big network infrastructures are putting in ultra fast pipes between America and Japan, and of course Japan is a massive gaming nation. I mean, you know, for much of what we consider gaming today came from Japan in the form of Nintendo and Sony and so on. So, you know, that's to be understood. And of course, until very recently, I think a lot of them sadly have closed down because of COVID. They had the world's largest gaming arcades. So, you know, so there's a lot of talent to be found in Japan in any case, across the board, as far as gaming is concerned. But yeah, I think you found literally hundreds of job vacancies, didn't you? Within what could loosely be put into the Amazon Luna box.
Yeah, it was under Amazon Luna stroke Amazon Game Studios. I think a lot of people would be actually surprised how many jobs are out there and under them two sort of terms. It's actually quite breathtaking, and you can actually see that Amazon is not just talking the talk here. They're actually putting their money where their mouth is, and they are investing, and more investing into jobs. This is on top of the other people who have already got. It is just mad the amount of people there.
Yeah, and you know, we've seen again, I think I did a little bit of research not so long ago, and some of the people that, if you go to LinkedIn and look for Amazon Luna, some of the people that are, you know, directors or senior managers, they've been working in Luna, which of course, until they officially announced it, you know, you wouldn't have found it if you went hunting on LinkedIn. That was their sort of, you know, oh great, we can actually put the name now on our CVs. But when you go looking, you find that they've been working within Amazon Luna, let alone Amazon Games, since 2016, some of them. So, you know, it's not a project that they've literally started up in the last few months, you know, thinking, wow, here we go, opportunity knocks, everyone's getting into cloud gaming, we should be there. I think this has been a project that's been bubbling along in behind the scenes with Amazon now for some time. And I think, you know, again, why else would they have purchased Twitch a couple of years ago? You know, why have they invested so heavily in Amazon Games and developing their own titles? I think the writing's been on the wall for a little while, so it is disingenuous when people say, oh, this is a me too, you know, they're just coming along because everyone else is doing it. I think the only difference between all of them, and I think all of the cloud gaming incumbents have been working on a solution for some time. I think the only difference is when they announced or when they released. And of course, you know, arguably, Amazon aren't essentially releasing properly just yet. We know they're doing early access, and they haven't opened up any of the early access accounts yet. So, you know, they may have announced a little earlier than they were ready for. I think that's maybe a bit of speculation. Personally, I believe they probably wanted to get it out around the time that they announced all the new Amazon products. That made a heap of sense. Big launch of that stuff. Let's mention it, as we had the new 4K as well. So we may as well, you know, throw it out there. We're virtually ready to go out there with this in time, of course, for the holidays coming up, the big next gen consoles. It's a good time. If you're going to go out there, make some noise. Now is a good time to do it, even if you're not quite ready. But they've done it under early access, which gives them a little bit of license to make a few mistakes and tighten a few things up.
Exactly. It's the early access is a key term to have, because what happens for that is, rightly or wrongly, the bar is lowered and you're allowed to have a couple of whoopsies and things not 100%, which if you're a full launch product, you really can't get away with anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all good stuff. Now, the next item we're going to bring up is Cook Serve Delicious 3, a brand new title. What does this mean going forward for Luna? Sorry, Duncan, I probably jumped that on you quick, didn't I?
No, I was actually being prepared there for a change. Isn't that shocking behavior? Basically, I was just having a wee play about on my Xbox and this week, and I seen, I was looking to see what games were coming out, and this one popped up at me, and I thought this was out already, but no, this game's actually coming out this month in a couple of days. I think it actually comes out next week, and it's out now on Steam in early access, but it's actually just getting its full 1.0 release, if you want to call it the full release, this week on consoles. So this game is actually listed as coming to Luna and Luna Plus, so you would think that will probably be out relatively soon, if and when Luna launches, which I think, are we still assuming it's coming this month, or are we leaving the assumption here?
Sorry, my microphone died. Are we still assuming
Luna is launching this month, or are we not?
I think I have to think that, because we've been told that Valhalla and Far Cry 6, or certainly Valhalla, is launching day and date. Well, that's November, isn't it? October 29th. So I've been working off the basis that October 29th, which is Watch Dogs 3, Watch Dogs Legion, is when it should be launched by. But in truth, I don't think they've suggested that that's going to be a day and date. They have suggested Valhalla, which is November the 10th, I think, because it's the same day as the Xbox, the brand new Xbox series. So my guess is November 3rd. That's my guess. That's my guess.
That's your guess. Okay. With that,
I'd love to be surprised. Wolock thinks it could be tomorrow. It could certainly be Wolock. I mean, no, hang on. Let's wind this back. They said October. They said early access in October and request. So, yeah, I still think it's going to be October. In fact, they said, didn't they say the first half of October?
I can't remember the top of my head. I'm going to have to rewatch.
Yeah, we're useless, aren't we? Here we are in a podcast. They definitely said October, and I think they said early October. When we're kind of sailing past early October now. So Wolock, you may well be onto that one. I had thought similar, but I'd cycled back from it, because I thought, like Duncan said just now, about how large outfits like this don't tend to like to do multiple PR pieces on the same day. And of course, Prime is, lots of news about discounts and stuff. And I think if it were me, my fear would be that the news that it's happened would get lost in amongst all the deals that were going on. But of course, they've already done the announcement. What people are now waiting to see is the email that comes in that says, congratulations, you have been granted early access. If you go here and put your credit card details in, etc., you can, click in and set up your account. So they could absolutely start that first round of emails. We would see straight away, obviously, on social media, people getting all excited, and then there will be a raft of people racing to Twitch to demo and show how it looks and how it works. So yeah, we've always said the minute we see that activity, we'll be straight here with showing you in our own inimitable style. So yeah, it's got to be in the next few days, the more I think about it.
Yeah, that was a rabbit hole we went down there with the launch date.
It kind of was, but I needed to. I mean, I had to say my brain is operating at a fraction of its normal speed right now. But I'd put the 3rd of November down, but that's actually, when I think about it, that's too late, because they've already said. And I think that if you were Ubisoft as a partner, and you know that you've signed up to be that premier partner. You know, this is a big thing for you, and you've done that because you've got almost boom, 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 3 or 4 massive titles in your franchise armory coming out within weeks of each other. So you're going to want that channel up and running, aren't you? Because you don't want to miss out on anything. So, you know, my guess is that by the 29th of October, Ubisoft want to be able to say, day and date, we've got Watch Dogs Legion in, and day and date, we've got Valhalla, and day and date, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, could well be this coming week, Sean. It could well be. Anyway, what about Cook Serve Delicious? Did we do that? Was that?
Yeah. No. The question was basically with this being a brand new title, and it's basically looking like it's going on the Luna day 1. Do we think that? Do you think that is going to be like a common practice? Because we've got a couple of games there which are relatively new. Do you think we're going to get games launching brand new straight into?
It's going to be easy for them to do because most games still are based on a variety or version of Windows. You know, if you develop a game for Xbox, if you develop a game for PC, or if you develop a game for PlayStation, it's probably a form of Windows. And we know that the base architecture for Luna is Windows. So I don't see why you wouldn't see that coming. I mean, obviously, it's going to depend on whatever the deal is between Amazon and the studios, because if that game isn't for sale per se, then they will need to be compensated for the lack of sales, and you know that's going to come out of that $5.99. Actually, it won't do, because that $5.99 is what we call a loss leader in business. I almost guarantee you there will be no profit to be made in this first round of early access. This is all about optics. So, yeah, it depends. But yes, I expect to see a lot of indie and AA titles making their way across. I suspect, and I'm being a little bit naughty this week in my little speculation. But
that's not like you.
No, I know. What naughty is, I suspect by the time we get to proper launch, and my guess still is next spring, during early, because they've said early access 100 games, which they said was 50 plus on Luna Plus and 50 plus on Ubisoft. I wouldn't mind betting it'll be at least 100 within the next couple of months, just purely on Luna Plus anyway.
What I was meaning more is the day and date. So if
when was the release from Steam?
No, the release in Steam was last in January, but that's an early access. But
early
it's going
access.
on. But the first, it is coming out to consoles as in release 1.0 is this week. So do you think we're going to get a? Do you think we're going to get a load of them on Luna Plus, or do you think we're going to get a?
Well, it was all in the list of 72, wasn't it? I mean, we only know about it because it's in the list of 72, so we know that it's already coming. I don't know that it necessarily heralds the date when proper early access starts. I think it simply means that it'll be available on early access.
No, what I mean more is, do you think we should expect day and date releases on Luna Plus? So if, say, Serious Sam...
I don't think they care so much, do they? I mean, the inference that we've had from the interviews that have taken place is that they're not chasing exclusives. They're not chasing the AAAs. You know, what they want. I mean, the model at the moment, as far as we know, is you don't even need to pay the $5.99 for Luna Plus. If you want to, you can just subscribe to the Ubisoft or any other channel. That's what's been said. So I don't, for me, that's just them saying, "Hey, $6, fill your boots." And there's some good games in here, and some that you've never heard of. I don't think they are necessarily going after exclusives and AAAs because they think, that's what's going to call in the audience. I think they, more than most of these, have at least been upfront in saying, our audience, we know our audience. Our audience is 100% casual gaming. They're not that worried about, I mean, look, when anybody bought a Nintendo Wii, right? Did they think, oh, I wonder if FIFA's going to come to it? And, I wonder if I can get Call of... No, of course they didn't. Because it was all about the family playing casual games in a casual way, nice and casually. They care about the experiences of being able to fire up a game and having fun with it, but not necessarily whether it's going to be, dripping in big titles. There are absolutely platforms that do, and there are gamers that won't go to a platform if they don't get those kinds of titles. But I don't think Amazon are that worried. And in any case, they don't need to, because they will leave that to their partner channels. EA will turn up and go, here you go, FIFA, Call of Duty, whatever. Ubisoft turns up, yep, Phoenix Rising, Valhalla. So Amazon don't need to worry. In fact, if anything, that's the last thing they want to do, because I can see that their revenue stream is going to come from the partner channels. They want to use this as a way to promote those channels. They're not going to want to create 250 amazing AAA titles so that nobody ever invests in the partners.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be an interesting wee discussion. That's why I put that in there.
Yeah, no.
I believe that I think we're going to get a sprinkling of brand new titles in, but I don't think it's going to be bang all the time. I think it's going to be every so often until things start really rolling, and we might get the first party stuff off.
We've got some good games in there, but they're not. They definitely aren't launching with a day and date brand new super title, and I don't think that was ever their intention. But they can say they've got some amazing games that are 18 months old or 12 months old, which is more affordable. And again, a lot of those games, if I said to you Horizon Zero Dawn, you'd say, oh yeah, one of the best games that I played. I remember the amount of plaudits it got, and yet, what is it? 2 years old, 3 years old now? Well, if it turned up, you go, wow, they've got Horizon Zero Dawn. See, the kind of the wave, the ripples that those games create go out for years. So you don't have to necessarily launch with a game that is day and date, as long as it, in its day, was a really big name title, and they've got some of those to launch with. So I think that's their plan. I think, predominantly they want to create the space. I see it like a market myself, Luna. I see that, you go down the local market and there are all these stalls laid out. And there's a Ubisoft stall and there's an EA stall and somebody else's stall. And the market's owned by Amazon. And when you go in there, there's some free stuff as well if you want it. Help yourself. There's a little creche over there for the kids to play with. That's how I see it. And the money is made from those guys that are renting those stalls over there and maybe giving a percentage of sales back to the market owner as well.
And then you've got the microtransactions on top of that, where the Amazon will start beginning some of them as well. So there is going to be multiple revenue streams there.
Yeah.
So again, this is just a wee interesting one, which I find just during the week, just to give us a bit something to talk about there. Yeah, the next one I know is something you want to talk about.
Yes.
If you remember.
I'm just grabbing my. Excuse me, folks. So the next one's the Lunar Spec. So we've kind of talked about, last week we talked about what's cloud gaming in a very rudimentary way. The one thing that I'm quite keen to talk about is what actually constitutes Lunar. Let me just see if I can find the
Before we get into the big topic about this, I think people get carried away with teraflops and how good everything's going to run and the headline figure. But I think sometimes they can be very misleading because you don't know what everything is going to be under the hood. So when we go through this, remember, take this with a pinch of salt, and we're just going to talk pretty broadly about this because we don't know how this is going to actually pan out until we actually see it up and running and we actually test the games. So,
excuse me. So I mean, look, there's some stuff in this that's really fascinating. So basically, It's running on an Amazon EC2 G4 AWS, which is Amazon Web Services. And some of this stuff you don't need to know about, but essentially back in, I think, 2008, it may even have been earlier than that, the big outfits that did most of what they do in the cloud, which obviously included Amazon, because, you know, that's where their massive store lives, in the cloud. And so all their servers and their network infrastructure and everything else, all optimized for the fastest and, you know, the most resilient experience around the world. I just realized I've disappeared. Let me bring me back here. And equally Google, there were several actually. There's Google, there's IBM. I mean, there's Amazon, obviously. There's a ton of these guys. But Amazon's particular flavor is the Amazon Web Services, which has become really, really big. I mean, to put it into perspective, Amazon's network, I believe, has about 44 big points around the world, big, you know, which have nodes that come off them in the various places they exist. 44. I think Google has 24. It's vast. Amazon's setup is absolutely huge, and they have these kind of packets, compute sessions and stuff that are all combined into something. In this case, it's called the EC2 G4 instance, and what it includes, and it says it here, and I'll zoom in for folks. It includes the Amazon EC. Basically, it's an NVIDIA Tesla 4 GPU, which is running. I'm going to get a little bit technical, but hopefully I can bring this back to something meaningful. Running Turing architecture, which also powers, the actual architecture also powers 2080, NVIDIA 2080 and 2080 Ti cards, you know, and they are still cutting edge. I know we just had the 3000 series announced, but right now, if I've got a 2060 in my PC, a 2080 is still a brilliant graphics card GPU. So ray tracing, which is, you know, it's a big thing people talk about these days. They talk a lot about how, because it does make a game look amazing once you see, you know, take Minecraft, for example, and apply ray tracing, it just becomes a completely different experience. So there's every chance that means that's what we'll get. They're running a custom Intel Cascade Lake CPU, which is a second generation Intel Xeon chipset. And because it's custom, literally made for them, we don't know masses about it, but it can have anywhere between 8 to 28 cores, which is, you know, gives a heck of a lot of computing power. And we don't know what flavors the Amazon Luna will be using, except it has that potential. The blades, and each of these little server instances is called a blade, will run on NVMe storage, which is blisteringly fast. So again, really important, something we've become very used to in cloud gaming, is the speed of access to the game. You know, unless it's running on a dedicated box, which is, you know, old architecture with an old sort of disk array, in which case it ain't nothing special. But in this case, you've effectively looking at something that's going to be very fast. So we can see straight away from all of that that's going to be fast. Now here comes your point, Dunk, and all of this equates to about 8.1 teraflops, which doesn't sound amazing when Stadia, for example, is 10.7. xCloud at the moment is rubbish. It's 1.2, but they're going to be introducing the Series X architecture next year. That will bump it right up to about 12, which will put it at the top of the league. GeForce Now somewhere around 11.76. They don't publish their specs, but that's kind of what it's been worked out to be. And I've already said that it runs on Windows, so most games are still being developed under some form of a Windows operating system. It's just the way it works. Now, the thing I wanted to point out was, and this comes back to your point, Dunk, about, you know, don't get messed up on the teraflops. What all of that says is absolutely this architecture will run current generation games 1080p, no problem at all, which, you know, is where most of us are used to playing them anyway. If we're playing them on our consoles, for example, or even in cloud gaming, a lot of us are just used to 1080p. And a lot of people still don't have 4K TVs, and this is something ignored. But my point is this, and this is the key thing. With the infrastructure that they've got, their data centers, for example, twice the amount of data centers the nearest rival, what we should see is a lot lower latency and a lot higher bit rate, video bit rate. That means that may only be 1080p, but it might be pin sharp 1080p. Now, I absolutely believe that a high quality 1080p looks better than a low quality 4K. And I'm not just talking about other cloud game platforms. Even when I'm playing games on my PC, if I've got a really high video bitrate 1080p, it looks stunning. And then on a console, I might have the same game and it says it's 4K, but the textures are just muddy and rubbish. So I'm expecting, even though on paper it may not fit the bill compared to some platforms, I actually think, coupled with the speed of Amazon Web Services and how close we all are to their data centers and their ability to push out high volume, high video bitrate, I'm expecting to see this at a really pin sharp 1080p. But it does also have the opportunity to go up to 4K. That's already in those specs. But I think we'll see most games, particularly the ones that Luna Plus push out, at 1080p. So impressive specs, they're still somewhere in the middle. And of course, this has to come with the caveat. There's the small print. Because it's cloud, all of that can change in a weekend. They could literally rip out those specs and push in a brand new GPU set or a bigger CPU or a faster network. It can happen. It can happen relatively in a short space of time. Whereas, of course, that isn't the case if you buy a console. You buy a console, you're locked into it. You can add a bit more hard drive space. That's pretty much about as much as you can do. But when we're talking about cloud, the provider can upgrade and uprate and replace their kit as and when they want to, and they will, because it's an arms race. They cannot afford to be the slowest kid in town. Even if your audience is predominantly casual, if your prices aren't hugely different from a competitor that has a much better experience, shall we say, then you're going to gradually lose subscribers. So, I think they're great. They're a great starting point. I'm very excited about the GPU, to be honest with you. I think, to be able to get ray tracing fairly early on is going to be amazing if that happens. The rest of it, suck it and see, isn't it? Until we see people out in the wild, who knows?
Yeah, but again, this is what we go back. The teraflop thing is, I think people are getting are focusing far too much on that, because it is, you don't know where the power is being used, and that top end power could be getting sucked away to somewhere else. Just for some context here, what we're saying about the top end. What was it again?
8.1 teraflops.
What was it? 8.1 teraflops. If I told you that the next Xbox Series X, the Series S, which is the 1080p model, which is going for 1080p 60 FPS, is only 4 teraflops.
Yeah. It is a number that people get hung up on, and quite honestly, you've got to take the whole structure. The whole thing is it's not just, it's just, unfortunately, you know what people are like, Dunk? They like to pigeonhole stuff, don't they? They need sound bites. We're in a sound bite world, are we not?
We are indeed, unfortunately, and things are getting taken out from context and everything, just make them talking points. Yeah, the teraflop thing, I think people are going to get hung up on, and then if one looks better than the other when it's actually under, and they've been banging on about this is so many more teraflops, it just makes people look a bit silly. So getting into the power war is really daft at times, because we've seen, even with the PlayStation 4 Pro, that some of the games on there look more impressive than they do on the Xbox Series. Sorry, the Xbox One X. I always get the numbers and the names mixed up. But the power battle, I think, it's going back to your point here. It's not going to matter. It's because what's going to happen is we're just going to rip them off and push them in, rip them out, and constantly upgrade.
Yeah, and most people, let's be completely honest. We're kind of a bit techie, and this stuff's of interest to us. 90% of people couldn't give a soppy fig. They really couldn't. What they want to know is, how much is it going to cost me, Jim? $6 a month. All right, yeah, I can afford that. And that's it. And job done.
Exactly. I think that's where people need the real things in here. It's going to just come down to price and content, and that is what it will come down to in the end, especially as we've been talking about. I think we're going to be touching on the pricing model for Lunar in another show, because I think it is going to be a good talking point. But for the price of games going up to £60, $70 for the next generation, subscription models are going to become a lot more appealing for people.
Yes, I agree. But predominantly the subscription model. I had this conversation with someone on Friday in a call, but completely unrelated. It was a business call, and they couldn't quite understand why would they want to look towards a subscription model. And I went through the various points. It works for everybody. It works for the developer, who no longer has to worry about the cost of distribution, the cost of production, the cost of piracy. It works for the consumer, because you pay a monthly fee and play as many or as little games as you want. But you know that every single game that you have played, the studio has been compensated for that play. They're not involved in some huge, hideous agreement where they effectively miss out. There will have to be a level of fairness, otherwise people won't be interested. And from a studio's perspective, if you create content, there are going to be so many of these platforms that need relatively inexpensive but high quality content. So before, you only had three choices. It was Xbox, it was PlayStation. I say this flippantly. Of course, there was Nintendo, and there are others as well. But if you were going to develop a game and make a lot of money before the Switch and others, Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, and that was it. And to get into PlayStation or Xbox required you having to jump through hoops and give up a lot of your profits. Well, I think you're going to see that breaking down now. It's going to be easier for studios to have their games all over the place and make a lot of money from it. So, I absolutely think we're going to see an explosion of really high quality independent studios and their output.
Yeah, it's going to be it's just such a really exciting time in gaming. I just can't wait to see everything. I think I say that every week on here.
It's true.
On every show, because everything is just moving so quickly and you just don't know what's going to happen next. It's like a soap opera every single day.
Yes, and I am J.R. Ewing. And half the audience went, who?
Yeah, that's what we say. Who shot you?
It was Mary. It was Mary Sue or somebody, I don't know. Great. Okay, let's have a look. What do we got next? We're going to move off into talking points.
Just a wee
achievement system.
Yeah. Just to have a wee general chit chat about the achievement system. We know there is a Luna achievement system in the works. It is 100% confirmed. They are looking at it, and they're looking to innovate on the achievement system. So basically, at this moment in time, there seems to be three sort of main ones. There is the PlayStation trophy system, where you get trophies, and if you complete all the other trophies, you get a platinum trophy. And then they separate off the DLC so you don't all get mixed up. So you can say, I've got 20 something platinums. I think I'm at 18 or something, but I do. Then you've got the Xbox system, which is like a points based system, and then you have like a standard sort of one, which is just like it comes up and says it's like Steam. It's like a bit like Stadia as well, where it's just a blank thing. It just says you've got an achievement for doing X, Y, and Z. They all have different variations of them. What's your favorite achievement system, and do you like them?
Do you know, I genuinely don't. It's never been a thing for me. I know I've got some friends who will, pick the meat until there are just bones left on the old carcass of the game, and they have to get every single achievement. They have to platinum it, and I totally understand that, because particularly up until subscription, for a lot of people, and all of us in truth, paying $50, $40, $50, $60, $70, $100 on a game is a huge investment. So the fact that once you've kind of finished the game itself, then there are these achievements that you can go back and get, find 3 cats to do this and get that badge and stuff. And then ultimately you see you've got silver, you've got bronze, you've got gold, you've got platinum. I can absolutely get why you'd want to do that to get maximum value out of the game. But it's not how I play. I typically play games once. I play only the campaign, and it's much more about the experience than saying I've beat the game. I don't even use that term. I hear it all the time. I beat that game. I don't like that term. It's not competing with me. I'm experiencing the game. I'm looking to complete the game. That's what I do, and I complete the game. So yeah, personally, I don't. It's never been of interest to me, but I absolutely get it. There are people that 100% want to. Now, the question is, if I'm right in saying that one of the reasons why people have traditionally liked the achievement cycle, because they're getting maximum value out of something they paid a lot of money for, once you move across to a subscription-based model, and the one downside to the sub model, which I found over the last 12 months, is that your commitment to games suddenly becomes a lot less. Even really good games, you might do an hour's worth and then move on, because it's like a kid in a candy store and there's so many flavors to try. So what I wonder is whether we'll see less interest in achievements, because people won't need to wring out the last drip of value in their expensive title that they didn't actually pay for. It's 50 cents out of their $6 a month.
Yeah, I totally get your point. I think we've been talking like that before. With so many games, it's you do just sometimes it's not even you just go around picking at games. You've got so many games in your library, and you're just going, I don't know which one I'm going to play. I'm just going to go back to my old favorites. And you just play the same ones over and over again, because you've just got so many. You get a bit scared to start a new one.
Yeah.
For me, I'm hoping for Luna anyway. If you're giving me which achievement systems do I like the best, I think PlayStation have got it nailed with the platinum trophy system, and then they separate them off, because then you can see.
And they've evolved it as well for the PS5. So just announced a whole overhaul of the whole thing.
Yeah, I think I'm just under 300 for that, and in PlayStation, that's my new level.
300 achievements in total? Oh, now you've thrown down the gauntlet, haven't you?
No, not really. I'm very, very mediocre. I'm about level 300 now for PlayStation. With that, it's more for me. Achievement systems actually pull you into actually beat games, or there we go. Beat games. Sorry,
I know. No, most people say it. I just don't see it as competing with me.
For me, there's some games I want to get a platinum in. For example, I have got a couple of platinums in the Assassin's Creed series, because I love that series so much. I wanted to get every single trophy for it. I'm hoping that Luna does something like that, where you get a full trophy system where there's an actual goal. For me, the trophy system is nearly the perfect one. If they don't have that, the gamer score is a good alternative where you can see you're going to get 1,000 out from 1,000 or whatever it goes up to because of the achievements in the game with the DLC or whatever we want to call it now. I personally do not like the blank ones which say you've just completed this achievement, bang, blip up, and that's it away, which Steam has, which Stadia has.
Yeah, it's not very...
It doesn't suck you in. It doesn't give you any sort of purpose of why you want to stay with that system, while the trophies and the achievements actually suck you in. And again, a lot of people may not find it, may not bother people, but for some people, it's just another draw to the system, and just makes the platform a bit more sticky. By that I mean people would actually want to play the games in that sort of one. So there's rocks there.
How does that look? Does that look reasonable?
Yep, that looks dead on.
See, I've only got two platinums though. You see.
Yep, you see your score's higher than me. See, that's something back here. You got me.
I can't help it, mate. I've played so many games. Look at that, 3,623 bronzes.
Let me see. I'll get my trophies up here. I've got 19 platinums, 210 golds, 406 silvers, and about 1,500 bronzes.
But there you go. Now there you see, shows you the difference in our game style.
Yeah,
because you've embraced achievements, right? So your top ends, your bronzes and your platinums show the time you've invested in achieving those, whereas I don't care. So I'm just getting the stuff that's easy to get as I go through the game, which is why my bronzes are like twice yours, and I've got a couple of hundred more silvers, because it's just as I wander around games and I just got one. Oh, okay, whatever. Yeah, whatever. I mean, if it said for everything I give you 12 quid, I may spend a bit more time on it then.
But the thing is, that's what PlayStation did in the US.
Did they?
Yep.
Okay.
So again, for me, I play across about 3 or 4 different platforms, so I'm not stuck to one. But I feel if I'm going to go for a game on PlayStation, sometimes I pick and choose my games to see if I can actually get a platinum, even though I haven't got that many platinums.
For you, was any part of that because was it because that's a massive extra challenge and you're competitive, or was it because I've paid the money for this game, I'm damned if I'm not going to get the value out of it?
No, it's really just down to the games.
Okay, because you just enjoyed playing the game.
Yep, and I just wanted to pick them up, and I've also got a couple of easy platinums in that as well, which I just want to get some platinum trophies here. I don't like having none, so
I can assure you my platinums were easy. There's no way. I don't even know what they were for. I mean, Destiny 2, I'm 90%, but I've not done a lot of the more recent raids, so I know I'm not going to get platinum on that one. But that's fascinating. I still stand by what I say. I think when people have access to a whole ton of games, the loyalty to the game, what you'll see is far fewer games completed and no interest in achievements at all, because to do that, to get the most of them, you have to pretty much complete the game and then go back and do it again and find the hidden stuff and do it on harder mode and all the other stuff. And I think we're seeing in the world, in the Netflix of games, even just in the subscription models where they throw you a half a dozen games a month, we're seeing you won't be playing all those games to the same extent. That's my personal belief.
And that's why I think if they get the achievement system right, you get people to stick more. So if they get a really good involved achievement system, like what Xbox are starting to do with their Game Pass one, where if you might get like a 50p off Amazon order or something along that lines, or a Twitch Prime account to subscribe, I think you could see. It's just another way to not trap people on your platform, just make the platform look even more appealing.
I think that's an interesting point, Dunk, that I've not given a lot of thought to. But when you look at who we're talking about here, Amazon, who are, look, what have we got coming up this week? Amazon Prime Day. It's a chance to get rid of old stock, in time for new stock, clear the shelves for Christmas, etc. It's all about what looks like it's about deals and give a discount here, and if you buy this, we'll give you one of these, and so on. That's what they do. So I'd be amazed if you didn't see that kind of stuff. We see it already, of course, with Steam and the Epic stores, where they'll give you a couple of free games, but also, by the way, there's discounts all day long. And if you buy this, you get that, the old two-phone and all that malarkey. So, yeah, 100% agree. I hadn't thought of that, but you should see a lot of that coming up.
Yeah, we had a thing before we started here. We didn't think we would have we thought we were going to be struggling with things to say, but we're just so excited about Luna. we're just getting more. What we're asking for on Twitter every week, if you follow us on the LunaCast on Twitter, is for questions, and we actually got a couple of questions this week.
Surprise!
To be honest,
questions.
Yes, we welcome anybody to ask us questions and encourage it, and we will feature on the show here. So we got our first question here. I'm just going to bring it up.
I think it's already there for you, my friend. I jumped ahead.
I was going to bring the tweet up on the.
Oh, right. Okay. Okie dokie.
So here we go. I'm trying. I'm very trying, aren't I? Here we go.
Technology.
So our first one here is, we'd love to know what your guys think would be a killer app for Luna. The free-to-play stuff that is missing on Stadia, we're not going down there, for example. So, Rock, what would you think would be a killer app?
Thanks for the question, Dave. So let me just clarify. Is Dave literally asking killer app as in a feature? Or is he talking about a game? What would be a killer game?
I think it's either a killer feature or a game.
Okay.
It could be either. So what do you think? A killer app? So that could be either.
Well, I've literally given this no thought whatsoever. So I'm absolutely useless. We know that from day one, you will be able to play two different devices. So two different people can play from day one. I want to see more than two. I'm getting greedy because nobody else is giving you any additional. But I really want to see a platform embrace the concept of family gaming. And that's not to say there won't be family gaming with Amazon Luna, but we know that from day one they're allowing for one more person. And you see that with Adobe and their apps and stuff as well. They tend to allow you access in one other place, but I would like to see the family concept embraced. You see it with so many of the subscription-based services now. As long as you're in the same kind of household, etc. Some of it's on a system. How can they tell? You're bound to give a couple of your mates access and so on. But I'm looking forward to that, and I think initially with a lot of other people. Do you realize this is all on screen, Duncan? Don't get your shopping list up for Monday or anything, will you? It's the last thing you want.
No, what I realized there was an interesting trend on Twitter, so I needed to see a bit more.
Oh, you thought expose it to the world.
Yes.
So for me, the killer app would be for my family to have access, and for me to sit down with a family game, particularly with the Ubisoft channel coming. Because if there's one thing those guys do really well, it's family games, Monopoly, Uno. They just do great family games. And we love to sit down, my girls and I, and play Trivial Pursuit, and we haven't played Uno actually, but Monopoly we've played, and some of those great games with. And this could be a real killer app, actually. I don't know if you played those games on PlayStation where you've got your phone and it's kind of like an extension of the game, and you can see all the graphics and the questions are on your phone. So, all of you. So having something like that would be really cool as well, because, you could do that as an integration into Twitch, for example, and then use your devices to. So have an instance of Twitch on each phone, with, right, here we go. Your question is, who do you think would have, made the best cake in history? And then you've got to draw your picture of who it is or what have you. But you can do this on your instance of Twitch and then have it all appear on the main instance of Twitch on the screen in front of you. That kind of a thing would be really good to see. And I think the one thing we're seeing at the moment is that the work they're doing between Luna and Twitch is far in advance of what we're seeing elsewhere. And I think that's largely down to the fact that Twitch was purchased for this purpose, whereas, let's call a spade, YouTube is its own big monster, and probably doesn't like being told what to do. So we're seeing a little bit of resistance in that neck of the woods. There you go, a little bit of controversy for you. What's your answer to the question, Dunk?
Yeah, I was going to answer with something that I just remember what the second question is. So I'm going to answer that with the second question. Yeah, for me, it's something similar to you. Yeah, it would be up to the family numbers. 2 is actually more than I thought we were actually going to get in the first instance. So I'm actually positive. For me, that's a positive, and hopefully that will expand that out, especially if you've got kids in the house and you want to play with them. There's some games on there like Grid, which are going to be absolutely a load of fun playing together. If you haven't played Grid and multiplayer with your friends, it's absolutely brilliant fun. But yeah, it's a Twitch integration. I am really intrigued how that is going to go down, because that's another topic we're going to come on to eventually, is how is the Twitch
not tonight,
integration.
Folks. We've already overrun.
Yes. So I'm just basically I want to see the Twitch interactions pushed from the word go, and the direct streaming to Twitch. I don't think that's going to come day one, but I think that will probably come in short order, because they're a step ahead there where you can actually view this Twitch stream. So you would think hopefully the talking will be there pretty quick. And the second question is something a wee bit similar. It's I'm just moving it down here.
Mm-hmm.
What would you call the dream launch for Luna?
Yeah, well, I don't. Sorry, mate. Expand the narrative. In what respect?
When early access starts, what would you think would be amazing? What would you think would not be knocked out from the park?
I mean, assuming that there are no great surprises, that they were fairly open with what we will see when it launches, and they've been adding to the games list as well. I think really for Amazon, it just has to be a launch without too many hiccups, not to be 24 hours to 2 weeks late. I mean, the worst thing that can happen for them, I think, for example, is that you suddenly hear 1 or 2 people say, I've got access, but the majority haven't heard a thing, and it goes on for days or weeks, and there's still only the first handful of people, because, you get that whole FOMO thing kicking in. The fear of missing out, and then that leads to animosity, and that leads to resentment, and then that leads to negativity, and on it goes. And the one thing that we've seen with cloud gaming is that as a concept, it has a huge, it has a massive army of detractors out there that really don't want to see it happen. So for me, I would love to see them just have the perfect technical launch that goes without any hitches, that gets it out to as many people that have applied to have early access as possible, that the initial feedback is a positive one. I would say possibly the number one experience that I would take from watching how other people have rolled out is it won't be access to the system that people will get frustrated with. It will be their own internal network setups where, they're trying to do it over a really dodgy Wi-Fi, even though their broadband connection speed's actually probably quite decent. They haven't rebooted their router for a year, and they're all, they're trying to run Fortnite and Netflix and download the hideous scale files and expect it to work perfectly. So I would like to see, and I haven't seen it yet, and I would love to have seen it with other platforms, a lot more information and help for people when you first get access to this. And we haven't seen yet what they're going to say when they give you access. When you first have access to this, what we want to do is we're going to run this diagnostic tool, which is going to have a look at your setup and tell you how you could improve it to get the best out of the system. So, right, okay, we've seen you've got this firewall set with that port, and that's going to be a problem. And by the look of it, you've got a huge amount of devices on this network, all vying, and all that kind of stuff is technically possible. So I'd love to see them do something like that, so that the actual first experiences that hit social media and hit Twitch and YouTube say, brilliant, works really well, low latency, looks good, no problems at all. And that's the dream launch, as far as I'm concerned, for Luna.
Yeah, since you've done that, I'm going to go for a slightly different tack. But the dream launch, that app or something to just show where the possible issues are if you're going to set it all up would be really, really good. For me, the dream launch for Luna would be Luna Plus launches. Uplay Plus, the Ubisoft channel launches a week after. Then you will get announcements of like the EA channel or something along them lines. Oh, what's going on here?
I'm just trying a whole new look. Well, we want to focus on what you have to say, Mr. Massive Keyboard.
Mr. Massive Keyboard, yeah, but that's what I would be wanting. Is for me, it'll always come down to the content, because I'm assuming that the tech is going to be working and it'll be in a usable state, because if it wasn't, I don't think they would be launching as we have seen with other things. So my thing is going to be a roadmap of content actually coming out, saying here is the EA channel, here is the 2K channel, here's the Activision channel, just a nice series of content and some sort of roadmap, because if the content's there, all the other stuff will follow suit eventually.
Yeah, the key thing is that invariably, if there are issues, it isn't at the provider's end. It typically is at your end. But we saw this when Stadia launched. There was so much negativity, and they were trying to run it on corporate networks, and they thought they were being clever because it didn't work. Well, I really wouldn't want to see anyone else suffer the way that those poor people did, because they'd poured heart and soul into developing that system, and so much of it can be avoided if there's a whole bunch of caveats that say, don't use this on a corporate network, don't use this if you've got XYZ ports switched off and so on. And you can't tell people to do that, because look, we're aiming this at a casual gamer. But what you can do is say, if you run this diagnostic tool before you start, we'll give you 7 pointers that will absolutely optimize your network to give you the best possible experience. And it needs that. If they can bring that out, which we don't know about yet, because of course we won't do until somebody gets access to it, I think that's going to help massively.
Yes, it will. And I think that's maybe a good place to end this for tonight. Yes. It's been a really, really good show. For those who are watching us live and not in the thing on the podcast, we will be coming back in 1 wee second to have a talk with you. And it's the same time, same place next week. So, Rock.
Yeah, but before we go, mate, let's just let me just ask you, where can we do the usual things that professionals do?
First of all, we would like to thank our Patreon. Can you say it? Because
Wolock. Everyone else on the planet can say it, but you.
I know. I can hardly say your name. Never mind.
This is true. Rick. Thanks for coming on, Rick.
Yes.
Duncan, where can people find you in the week?
You can find me at Want to Escape and Crowdy with a Chance of Games.com with my amazing team there.
Yes, and you can find me at Cloud Rocks. But most importantly, and this is really important, it's at the LunaCast. Because as you saw those questions, we are really keen to talk and have a dialogue about Luna. or cloud gaming in general. So please do. As Duncan pointed out there, with our good friend Sean Wolock, we have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/the Lunarcast. It would be amazing if you guys could just have a little look at that and see what you think. And if you want to support us, fantastic. If you don't, it's the way of the world. But we will be back in the week. We'll definitely be back in the week if there is any news or any amazing happenings. And as Wolock said, Prime Day's coming up, so keep your fingers crossed. And we'll also be back on Thursday, Duncan, for Game Quest, which we launched on Thursday gone. You can still pick it up if you go to our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/the Lunarcast, and where we look at the games that we know are coming. We do a little bit of a deep dive on games that we know are coming, and maybe reviews and stuff, and just generally talk about games, particularly obviously about Luna. So come and join us for that. Thank you once again for joining us tonight. We'll be back next Sunday for episode number 3 of the Lunarcast. In the meantime, say goodbye, Duncan.
Goodbye, Duncan.
And I'll say goodbye, Duncan, too. Goodbye.